Today we're covering Prison of the Hated Pretender. I adore this module. It's amazing for running. Players will have a bunch of fun in it. But also what it has, which I really like and isn't done enough, is this module has GM commentary on it, which it doesn't just teach you how the module was written and how it was intended to be run, but also the advice in there is priceless and will make you better at what you do. Let's jump straight in. So cool. So Prison of the Hated Pretender, it's by Gus L. It's really, really cool. It's in this format, so I can't make it into my favorite little booklets, but that's fine. And it's a pedagogical module. I nailed pedagogical there. Pedagogical, yes. So basically it means it's a teaching module. It doesn't just teach your players, it also teaches you as a GM. It's brilliant if you're coming for across like things from 5e, because it gives really great advice on that. Although it's been statted for older school games, there is 2 pages at the back that make it so you can run it with 5e, no issue at all. And the prison focuses on puzzles presented by encounters and conflicts, and that's kind of a key thing here is conflicts aren't just things to be won. In here the conflicts are puzzles to be solved that can then be used towards players' advantages, which is really, really cool. There's loads of traps and monsters that can kill you, but they're well marked, and the monsters are things that you can get away with, which is cool. So and this is the other thing as well. You'll see this kind of darkened writing throughout it with a slightly darkened background. That's where it's kind of like the GM advice, and the white background is for the actual module itself. So it starts off with this hamlet of hovels called Broken Huts. I'm going to read this little description here, and it'll give you an idea of the quality of the writing in here, but also just how freaking awesome this module is. So Broken Huts, 20 slumping hovels of clay, dried hay, and bent sticks, centered around a sun-baked brick square and a muddy well. Even the water's muddy here. Wilting fields of turnips and black squash. And the turnips are like the most depressing vegetable you could have. These people just farm turnips. I like turnips, but yeah. It's worked only by human labour. The huts are homes to a shocking number of scruffy, soiled, sickly people as broken and beaten down as their homes. Life in broken huts revolves around drinking as much mulchy tasting turnip wine as possible to drown out one's pains and keep one's dreams dead. Like, that's a description and a half. Immediately you know, it's not a description that you need to read to your players, but you know this place now. You know how you're going to run this. It's a horrific place to live. The only way for them to survive and get through is to kill their dreams by drinking mulchy turnip. It's not even turnip wine is bad enough. It's going to be like super, super cool. A couple of other things to kind of point out here is it gives you like what they can muster. So Broken Huts can muster a gang of 1d6 furious drunks who briefly seek revenge for any outrage. Here it tells you why it's giving you that piece of information. Lots of people, when you're coming from other game systems, wouldn't know, but it gives you advice on kind of like, you know, it's a safe haven, but it also kind of like lets you know that you never know when a town might need to defend itself against players or against other things as well. Again, more about the town itself. Abject and obvious poverty has proven to be the best defense for broken huts. It gives you everything that's in it, but there's 6 chickens and 5 goats. That's it. That's the total of the livestock that this entire village has. And then kind of like on the outskirts of town, there is this the Prison of the Hated Pretender. It's about an hour north from the last dusty turnip field, and a popular destination for drunken dares and popular topics for local gossip. It stands on top of a knoll with a large solitary tree hanging next to it. This is a thing, when they hit this town, this thing is sitting there. It's within sight. It's something to ask questions about, and it's something that people are going to speak about. It gives you utterances of what people say about it as well, which is really, really cool. So again, it makes it really, really easy for you to run the module. It also gives you advice on hooks and rumours, which is really, really cool. Many older style modules include false rumours. Doing so is a matter of taste, but I find false rumours a waste of playtime. A false rumour that exposes a character danger when they act on it is like a trap, but it often lacks sufficient information for players to detect and avoid it. I agree with that 100%. That's how I feel about them. Maybe you don't, it's fine. But like, I really like the fact that that explanation is there. It took me a while to understand that when I came across from 5e. So having that information there is really, really cool. So the prison itself. So The tower is a magical prison for a hated tyrant whose crimes against the long forgotten and distant religious state would be too grievous if anybody remembered them. So this thing, it's a prison for it, and it can't escape it. It gives you loads and loads of really amazing descriptions about how to run this thing, but it also says it isn't just the home to the hated pretender. There is the honoured dead there, a seething mass of rage and pain, unreasoning. I'm not going to try that. I know one hard word. And constantly creates a phantasm of vengeance, which hunt the hated pretender and tear him apart. So the hated pretender isn't just this bad thing that you have to deal with. He's actually is a pitiful undead wretch. Despite retaining a certain brilliance of his mind, his confused, broken memories, as he is incapable of recalling his life as a monarch, except in rare, brief, lucid moments. The pretender's torturers have seared and scourged him to death again and again. He lives pathetically in constant, overwhelming dread of the phantasms who have now killed him innumerable painful times. That, you know how you're going to play this, and that is exactly what a module should be doing. It should be giving you stuff that once you read it, you understand how to play this. You don't have to keep on coming back to a point. You understand the torment of this thing, and that vivid description there is just so cool for that. So the phantasms here is one kind of type of monster, but it gives you different descriptions. So you can roll them, or you can decide beforehand. It's up to your players to figure out what they are, but they're really, really cool descriptions of things that look completely different, like illuminated floating featherless heron that stabs with a glowing beak. Nobody's ever seen that before in their game, which is a beautiful thing. This is more of the kind of like really good information that you get in there. So the maps are really, really cool. It gives you larger maps and a GM map, which gives you like little summaries of what's on different pages, which is again is cool. But location-based adventures revolve around investigating solving puzzles where various monsters are a risk and a potential tool. The factions in the prison are simple, but the key to puzzling this adventure is the monster's strict day and night cycle. So within this module, as you read through it, it doesn't just tell you that there's a cycle and then you have to figure out how to use it. It describes what it is, and then it also, that's giving you more preempts how you can build this kind of stuff into your game and get your players used to looking at monsters not as just something to beat, but as a tool, which I think is super, like I keep saying cool. I'm gonna have to find another word. So again, dungeon entrance here. The entrance it should always be a decision point. That piece of information alone is really cool. Again, so yeah, it's littered with this kind of stuff. By the way, if you haven't subscribed, please do. Every time somebody subscribes, I do a happy dance, and the world needs more happy dances. So hit the button, please. So this is kind of like a layout of how it's how the module kind of gets put together, which is there's these bolded words within a general description, and then the bolded words are kind of expanded on. So within here there's a stone, within that room there's a stone chamber, and there's also a ward of circles, and if they go and then examine them, you have more information here. I would probably be bolding that or putting a little bit of a highlighter in it to make it a little bit easier for me to run, but it's a really good format. So again, as they're going through this, and there's a lot of puzzles in this, and not just in the traditional sense, it gives advice on puzzles and traps. First, it should be evident, dangerous and tempting, offering a prize to a player who figures it out at their risk. I think that's really, really good advice. I don't like something that is they just touch something and then they have to save or die. There's no choice in that. There's no player skill. There's no, like, for me, that's not enjoyable. But this is saying, yeah, here's a trap. Here's something in front of you. The players know it is dangerous. Off you go. What are you going to do with it? Because there's something tempting on the other side. Second of all, isn't a mechanical skill check, which again I really like. You shouldn't just be able to roll and solve a trap. Now it does say that if you've got, and the game goes on to tell you if you've got skills that they might help you pull out more information about the trap, which is good. But again, it's something for the players to solve, which I really like. So again, I'm not going to break down every single room on this because you're going to get this because it's super cool. But I'm just going to go through some of the highlights that I really, really like. So another great bit of advice: describe monsters as you think the characters would see them, but not by name. That's an amazing piece of advice. The players are going to let them name the monsters themselves. If you describe it as a phantasm and then describe what it looks like, then you describe the next one as a phantasm and how it looks. That leaves, you're taking mystery out of the player's mind. You're taking decisions. You're taking stuff that they could potentially then give back to you, which is things that you can riff off and make the game better. So that again is a great little bit of advice. So again, it gives you stuff about turns. So rather than thinking of a turn as 10 minutes, considering it as a significant action. Vague, malleable, and undefined. Imagine how hard it would be to guess how long it is doing something in a complex, unfamiliar environment filled with hunting beasts. Like, that's really, really good advice. Again, it's not 100% 10 minutes, as they say in lots of books. It's kind of like the amount of time it takes to do a significant thing. I like that, and it makes it much easier to manage, so you're not breaking up turns into halfways. I've highlighted this to give you another description of a kind of like more in-depth description. So it's got, again, its general starting part, and it highlights the fact that different times that the phantasms come, there's a few heavy urns, stains and scattered bones, and a hair rope. And then as the players start going into them and digging deeper, you know exactly where you need to go to pull out the information on it. And I really do like that layout. It does make running it instead of some of the modules I've seen with huge text blocks, that's not fun for anyone. So this module is literally fantastic. Really, really well written. It's got some really cool stuff in, but here's one of the things I really enjoy. And again, it's got some great tips that's lined with it. It was, when you go up to the down an outdoor trap, there is this armillary of the fatidic stars. I peaked too early with the pedagogy. It's gone. Basically, it's a fate manipulating mechanism where the hated pretender used to control his lost empire. It's on the roof of this place, and if the players can figure it out and get it working, it has enough eldritch power in it that any living sentient being adjusting the active armillary is stunned by prophetic vision of their fate. So what this does is it takes this really simple starting point. This isn't going to be a village that people are going to want to hang out for a long time, but it sets you up to build a bigger campaign out of it, which is really cool. Now, it doesn't just do that and leave it into your hands. It gives you a bunch of different options that you can have as a GM that you can pick that fit you. So it makes you, basically it points out that this makes you make the biggest sort of decision that you can as a GM, how you will create story and design the campaign. So basically it then tells you different ways that you can do it. So ways to use it. You can just decide what's going to happen. You can go random because there's a bunch of random options for you to use. Or it can be player driven. You can ask the player what their vision is. So I'm going to give you a couple of the options of the random ones here. And all of this stuff is things that you can then just build off and riff off. So one is based on if you want a campaign to be about travel. They see hazy lands that call out to you, deserts, jungles, and a glass tomb of strange goods. You can bring, which will bring you great wealth. You see an ancient coffer in the dust, a golden spire above a white sand shore with a spot where your future wealth waits. If that's your players that you think they're going to respond to that, then use that. This one I really like. A beast. Soon a bestial change will overtake you unless the blessed are blessed by an ancient animal god. You won't immediately rendered into sear slavering terror, but the transformation will be slowly. So again, you can put that onto your player if the players are that like. You could even say what kind of beast is it going to be and let them riff off it. But it gives you these great options that you can actually build a campaign out of here, and it kind of like it's just really, really good advice. So yeah, overall, right? Again, here's kind of like the GM map here, which it gives you kind of like the summary of what's in the places, as well as giving you one which is really good that you can have at the table or use on VTTs. This is your 5e conversions for the monsters. Obviously, with 5e, you need big monster stat blocks, so it gives you the monster stat blocks as you need them. And then it gives you advice. 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons is a fun game, but if you're reading this adventure, you're likely looking for ways to get a little bit more out of it than offered by some of the playthrough official public content. It goes on to give you more advice on how to use 5e to run these games, but how to kind of refocus it in a slightly different way. So yeah, overall, this is an amazing module. There'll be a link below to it. You can get it on drive-through for pay what you want. It's fantastic and worth a read, so I know you'll get it. And yeah, it's an enjoyable read as well as something great to run. If I was putting a kit together for people to play, starting to switch across or starting to run games, this would absolutely be in it. But for the GM advice, as long as with stuff like the the serpent against the cult. No, the serpent. The Skirples adventure, which I've covered beforehand, which I'll probably link below as well, and things like Maze Rats. Again for the GM advice, but yeah, it's super cool. So yeah, if you've got anything you want me to cover, put it below, and if not, I'll chat to you soon. So take care.